when you really realize you don't need something. You know, when I went to prison, my fear wasn't about getting raped. My fear wasn't about getting beat up. I had none of those fears. You know what my fear was? Honestly?
I have no idea.
That I was going to lose my mind without the marijuana.
Not the cocaine?
No. At the time of my arrest, in October of 87, I was a bona fide stoner. I was a bona fide stoner. Stoner was what I did all day. At night, I did the blow. But I loved my marijuana. I fell in love with marijuana in like 81. The relationship grew in 83 in Colorado when I realized the strength of the marijuana out there. And then when I went back to New York, they had Thai weed and they had sense. So I was infatuated with good weed at that age. I always went into the city and tried to hunt down the best weed. If somebody told me that the weed this week was on 181st in the Bronx, up in Jerome Avenue, that's where I was. You know, I had certain people that I knew that they were my caliber smokers.
Okay.
And they told me there was another guy that was getting chocolate Thai weed in West New York. And it was expensive as fuck, but I was buying that then. I liked good weed then. So that was my daytime thing in 87. But it also helped me go to sleep at night.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That's all it does, yeah.
At that time, weed was still making me go to sleep, even if I did blow. If I did blow and I smoked 2 good joints or something, I went down. So at that time, the weed was still very strong to me.
Is weed one of the harder ones to do in prison because they could smell it smoking? Like, is that the issue?
It's a nightmare to smoke weed in prison. Because you have to get toilet paper, and you have to put deodorant stick on it.
Okay.
You have to put a bunch of that, and then you have to light that on fire. And then you have to roll up the joint, you know, and smoke it. Remember, in prison, you get weed. It's 3 joints of mediocre weed for $50. So for me to give it to you, your wife or mom has to put money on my books. And once I receive that 50, I give you a matchbook. It's called a matchbook, and that's exactly what it is. You know those book of matches that slide?
Right. Oh, okay, long ones.
They fill that up. They fill the tiniest one they could get with weed.
I thought you were going to say it was like one of those little foldable ones.
And you get 3 joints, pen joints. You got to fucking go somewhere and smoke it. They're going to smell it. They're going to lock everything down.
Yeah, that's a disaster.
So it's too much drama. It's too much. It's not worth the aggravation. When I found out I could get weed, by the time I found out, it was too late already. I was already getting over what I thought would be
the issue.
A really, really bad situation.
Right.
Like I smoked weed 20 minutes before court because I knew, just in case.
Jesus, and you didn't think they'd look at your eyeballs or anything?
Nah, I put Visine in my eyeballs, but when I got sentenced, that was my biggest fear. That's always your biggest fear. There's a movie. There's a movie that we discussed before, 1981 Thief, and there's a scene where he talks to Tuesday Weld in a diner when he first meets her. And he asks her for a date, he takes her out, and he pretty breaks down who he is as a character. And he tells her a story about him going to prison. That he went to prison and he was doing his work really hard, but there was a guard that had it out for him.
Okay.
And one day the guard tried to do something to him, and he went off on the guard and beat the fuck out of him. And he fucked up the guard so bad that the guard could never move his right arm again or something. And he goes, the jailers beat the fuck out of me in retaliation for what I did to the guards. And he goes, and I knew once I walked out into that fucking field that I was a dead man. And she goes, so what happened? He goes, 6 months later, I got rehabbed and I went out in the yard. And she goes, what happened? He goes, nothing. And that's the way we think. We always think something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Whenever we're going to quit something. Like I went, I went to prison and they took that weed away from me for the first time. I was 25 years old, 26 years old, whatever I was at the time that I went to prison. And I thought first of all, I was going to get really bad insomnia. So the first thing I did was make up a story about, the inmates told me what to say to get like a pseudo sleeping pill.
Got it. Okay.
So I took that sleeping pill every day.
But after a while, it stops working?
Yeah, 3 or 4 days it stops working. So But by that time, I was already kind of over it.
Okay.
I was like, it ain't that bad. Like, my throat felt weird, my lungs felt weird.
Like good? Like better?
Like, no, they just felt like they were empty. They hadn't smoked. You know, at that time, I had been smoking weed steady. It's 88th. I had been smoking weed steady for 7 years, every day, 4 times a fucking day.
Have you heard, and I haven't, so it probably hasn't come out, but now that weed's becoming recreational, are they going to start letting it in prisons, do you think, or probably not?
I don't know fucking lately. I don't even know what they're going to do with the regular law. What do I give a fuck about prisons?